Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to San Francisco. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that if you're looking for a seatmate for this flight or this episode, maybe you can find a partner on OkCupid. We wish you the best of luck and at least 80% matches.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
I can't believe we're talking about a period piece from 2014. I can't believe we're talking about a period piece from 2014. I can't believe we're talking about a period piece from 2014.
11 years ago.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, gentlemen, this week we are going to be taking a look back to 2014 and talking about a show that maybe didn't find its audience, but definitely is beloved in looking. But before we do so, I want to make sure that we tell folks what this podcast is all about. And Max, can you tell folks what this podcast is about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more, if they can be made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. Please like, subscribe. It helps us out so much. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And before we jump into this episode and this show, I think we wanted to just sort of say a little bit, because this is a show that we did choose knowing that it is June as of recording this. It is Pride, and I think that we definitely have some thoughts about, you know, the three of us talking about this show. And Max, I wanted to, you know, point over to you.
Yeah, definitely aware that looking may not be stories that reflect our own personal day-to-day life experiences. And if you're out there, if you're a fan of the show, if you're finding us and you say, you know what, I don't know if this is the lens that I want to hear through this show, we respect that.
Totally.
You absolutely have the freedom to make that call. I would also encourage anyone who is finding this podcast to challenge yourself as someone who appreciates and takes in and seeks out art to find perspectives that challenge your own life experience, that challenge your own worldviews, seek things out that take you out of your bubbles, that help you become a more rounded, more cultural individual, learn about, you know, people whose lives don't necessarily mirror your own. I think that is the beauty of someone who loves art and gets to immerse himself in it at a daily basis. So if this is for you, we are really glad you're here. We are going to try so hard to do justice for this show today. And if this is just not the platform for you right now, we respect that so much. And we hope that there are ways that you can find out more about this show in a way that feels more adept to you personally.
Totally.
Very well said.
And thanks for joining us this far, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
We normally start off with my question of the week for this week. And, you know, I think looking, if anything, has a feel of like a certain era of HBO shows or a certain era of TV in general. And that's kind of like what I like to call like slice of life sitcoms or comedies. It's kind of like there is a plot, but you're mostly jumping around to all the characters individually. There's a lot of like interwoven plots and stuff like that. And the thing I compare it most to is like a High Maintenance or Easy on Netflix, where you get like little vignettes of every character every episode. Do you guys feel that this is a show like that? And do you like that format? Like, what is your opinion of that format for storytelling?
I'm going to start us off. And I think, yes, I do really like that format. I think that we don't get, and the reason why is we don't get that much of it. Right. It is very hard to go into a studio and sell that concept to people when you're trying to build star power of a one person, or, you know, you have, we're making Matlock. And what if we didn't focus on Matlock?
Right.
What if we focused on everyone but that? So, yes, I love when someone has the cojones to say, you know what, we're going to do this. And it's maybe not going to get the largest audience in the world, but it's going to get eyes and talk. And that hopefully will then bring that audience in. Not everything needs to be a Paradise or a 911 or, an Always Sunny in
Despite Jeff's
Philadelphia.
letters.
Exactly. I've asked so many times for Paradise. all dogs, and they keep on not listening to me. But Max, I'm curious from your perspective, what are your thoughts on slice of life TV?
The slice of life version of Paradise is such a wild thought in my mind right now. At this time when Looking came out, you also really have the rise of the mumblecore genre kind of taking over in the indie sphere and getting a lot of traction with critical acclaim. Rich, you mentioned Easy from Joe Swanberg, and it's run on Netflix there. I think about shows like Togetherness and Family Tree being on HBO around this same time. I think that these shows can be beautiful personal character studies, and I think that they also, when not done correctly, can feel mundane. I think it's how do you establish the relationships in a way that feels impactful, that feels meaningful, and wants you to continue to dive into that, because these are not things that are going to have necessarily massive inciting incidents. They're not going to have huge cliffhangers that make you want to click next. It is, are you willing to just go down that rabbit hole of what do these people's lives look like? How do these characters interact with each other? And it's a genre that has kind of faded away. It definitely had a boom in the mid-10s, does not seem as prevalent anymore, though we do see it in film. And so I'm just really curious to look at something from a decade ago and just see what that lens looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I loved following the trajectory of High Maintenance, specifically from a web series to an HBO show. I mean, it's so I thought it was just like very interesting how they all had this like how they pieced it together from a very clear slice of life, separate vignettes with a through line of, I believe the character's called The Guy, like he doesn't actually have a name. But I just really enjoyed how it was like, no, we're going to take moments like universal moments of life and slap them across all these different people in Brooklyn. And that's going to be the show. It's not, Carrie and the gals experiencing everything. It's not like, like a small ensemble experiencing everything themselves. It's all these different slices of life that are having these moments. And I think it's like a great method of storytelling that I can see coming back.
Well, Rich, thank you so much for your thoughtful question of the week. Let's talk a little bit more about Looking. And we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. 3 best friends living in San Francisco share the nuances and complexities of contemporary gay relationships as they explore a variety of options both in love and in life, which, based off of what we watched in this pilot, I think is a great synopsis of this show. But Max, I'd like to hear a little bit more from you about how this show got made.
Today, we're talking about the pilot episode of Looking, titled Looking for Now, which originally aired on January 19th, 2014 on HBO. We're talking about the show's creator, Michael Landon, a bit more. Today's pilot is based on Landon's short film Lorimer, as attempts to adapt it into a feature. Landon previously worked as an assistant director on Sons of Anarchy and Damages, and served as an associate producer on AMC's Rubicon and the 2010 Robert Pattinson film Remember Me. You may know that one best for its wild twist ending. Look it up. After seeing his film Weekend at South by Southwest, the network hired Andrew Haigh to direct the pilot, and subsequently he ended up directing the entirety of the show's run. You may know Haigh for his 2023 award-nominated film All of Us Strangers. Lorimer centered around a gay man living in Brooklyn, his 2 best friends, and a stranger met on the subway. The script ends up at HBO, where Landon describes it as lightning in a bottle. The network up to this point had not had a show centered around gay male characters, and also wanted to continue to explore the new generational gap. The vision for the series was intimate and naturalistic, to capture the fog of San Francisco, the use of cool blue lenses. Even the wardrobe, in a quote from costume designer Danny Glicker, was picked not just to serve as gay people as a platform for merchandising. Filming began on location in San Francisco in September of 2013. We will get into these shows' marketing, its early reviews, and expectations later on, all of which may serve as harbingers of what troubled this show during its run. I should also say there is a fantastic complete oral history of Looking that came out last year through GQ for the show's 10th anniversary. So if you are looking to read more from its cast, its creators, its design team, go find that article. There are just so many fun tidbits with casting, actors who read for this and tested for this, who didn't get it, who you may definitely know as major movie stars now, go check it out. It's a great piece if you want to learn more about this show in addition to what we talk about today.
Go for it, Rich.
Oh, I do want to like get into this early because this is you guys are a lot more in tune with the Broadway scene of it all.
Sure.
How big is Jonathan Groff's star at this point?
Holy shit! Are you like this is?
No, I really don't know.
No, I'm being serious. I'm being very honest.
That's not a facetious answer.
No, that's not me being.
This is like
at all.
Spring Awakening.
This is
like
huge
name
about,
already. Or
Max, correct me if my math is wrong. I think we're about 9 years after, or 7 to 9 years after Spring Awakening. At this point in time, and it was really interesting that you bring this up, Rich, because I just listened to this amazing interview of Jonathan Groff as he's promoting some of the new shows that he's on right now. If you haven't seen Nice Indian Boy, it is a lovely indie film that he stars in that is really funny, but also very touching and does a great job of speaking to breaking traditional, conceptions of marriage, especially within the Indian community. He just had done Spring Awakening. He was talking to a certain TVPL alum called Ryan Murphy about starring in Glee as Finn Wolfhard and said, I'm good. I'd rather do some off-Broadway shows at this point in time and just, get those reps in. And then very soon after, he's starring in, I think he did a play with Glenn Close at this point in time, and then went on to go do Hamilton, right? And be the original king in Hamilton. Like, we're talking about a man who had Broadway in his hand, and he could have strangled it with it if he really wanted to. But Max, what are your thoughts about?
Groff stars rising quick. Obviously, that entire original Broadway cast of Spring Awakening just took over pop culture. He does flip that into a reoccurring on Glee. He appears in the film adaptation of Normal Heart based on the play by Larry Kramer. And he is absolutely just a hot commodity at this point. And I think, all three of our leads come from very different places. You have Groff, who is probably the biggest name, but probably not like an older contemporary household name yet. You have Murray Bartlett, who's this long tenured Australian and American soap actor. So he's coming from the soap opera world. And then you also have someone like, I'm pulling up really quick, I'm playing the name, Frankie J. Alvarez, who, when he got cast on this show, that was his first film speaking role. He was a regional theater actor up to this point. He does appear in Smash prior to this show premiering, but this was the first thing that he was casted where he said that he got to actually speak on camera.
Wow.
So just to give you an idea, amazing cast just to start. And that was even just at this point in time. Let's talk about the opening of this show, because I think it is very, very striking, and this show dives in quick into the idea of maybe one of the misconceptions of dating as a gay man in San Francisco. And I want to hear from the two of you about this encounter in the woods, and if you were taken aback by it, or if you thought it was a good way of sort of keeping the audience off guard to start a show like this.
My first impression was I heard they start with the bushes rustling in this park in San Francisco. I was like, oh, they're opening with a cruising scene, and here we go, and here we are. I can only describe this scene as what if Jerry Lewis went cruising in San Francisco? It's very slapstick comedy. It's very, I'm gonna be the goofball. It immediately sucks the air of seriousness or pretension out the window, which I thought did wonders for how the show starts.
I'm bought into Jonathan Groff as Patrick from the jump.
Yeah.
This is such a great intro to this character. It feels so well written in the intro. This idea of you're trying to exchange names, you're trying to make connections, right. And the cell phone ringtone going off and fumbling for your phone mid hookup, and he is so charming. He is so charming, and it's the idea of when someone just takes up the space on the screen, when someone just has that magnitude and it feels like they can control the screen. And Groff does that in this scene. He takes on this lead role and runs with it. And I'm so captivated. I'm so charmed by Patrick. And I immediately want to follow this character on his journey.
Definitely.
It's not only this scene, but it's nailing the second scene of him talking with his friends afterwards, after this cruising attempt that I think really solidifies that, like, Max, as you said, you want to get to know this Patrick character. You also want to get to know Dom, and you want to get to know Augustine. Like, you want to get to know all of these people all at once, because they do remind you of, I think anyone, no matter what your sexual orientation is, can relate to the idea of, like, oh, you fucked up the hookup, and right. Like hearing him, hearing him say, like, yeah, as soon as the cell phone went off, I thought about my mom, and I was just like, holy shit, like, I'm bought in entirely of just folks talking about this on. I think they were on the bus when they were talking about this. Right. It's like, that's insane.
Yeah, they're on a bus, and they're going out. They're going to hang out in a backyard and smoke weed and drink whiskey out of wine glasses, which looks like a delightful evening.
Yeah, that's a nice time.
All of them have a driving, motivating factor in this plot that feels so universal, whether it is Patrick and his awkward quest for love. He's on the cusp of turning 30 and has never had a relationship more than 6 months. He's trying to balance career and his personal life and feels like he's just fumbling in all these ways around him. You have Augustine, who is really weighing this, I'm going to leave San Francisco and move to Oakland and move in with my boyfriend, and what does that mean for my life? Also that idea of, like, what are we? What defines us? And Dom with this struggle of, I'm a little bit older and my career is not going the way that I want it to. I'm tired of being a server at a corporate restaurant where I just wait on people who are younger and more successful than I am. And is my life stalling out as I prepare to turn 40? And the themes and conflicts that these people deal with at their most root simplistic level are so universal. And they are something that I think that anyone in our demographic and that millennial demographic has felt, if not felt all three of them, maybe even all three of them simultaneously. And so I think the show does such a great job of establishing those given circumstances and those motivations for its main three so clearly, so early on.
So one of the things, especially with slice of life television, is our A plot, or why is today different than any other day? Why are we dropping in? Isn't going to be this big splashy thing, right? It's going to be something as simple as Patrick was invited to his ex's bachelor party. And that is almost him trying to rev himself up to go to this, while also still life goes on. He's still trying to find a love life. He now finds out he's going to need to try to find a roommate and maybe combine the two of them together. We're going to talk about how that's a terrible idea in a little bit. But it is that enough for the two of you for this 30-minute pilot of, hey, that's enough for me to get to know a little bit more about each of these characters?
I think what this does at this particular moment is, like, it is a universality moment. It is this is what Jonathan Groff's character is going to deal with. This is there's like a handful of themes that they all kind of cross at the same time throughout this episode. So I almost like dividing this up. It's kind of like, there's the cruising element and the hanging out. And then there's the exes that will or will not remain in our lives moment, which seems to like affect kind of all three of them at the same time, before they get into like work and dating and all that stuff. But I think they do a good job of like establishing that these people care about the people that they're around. I think they do a great job with Jonathan Groff, like feeling kind of like, not like a fish out of water, but feeling like a little awkward with how cool people are in the SF dating scene. And I think trying to find his way in that. But I do think I really like the linear flow of all of them establishing each of their parts of their day together, but also separate.
Yeah, I think that it does a good job of establishing that, like, life is awkward and it's beautiful and it's complicated and it's nuanced, and not every day is going to be this major event, but sometimes something so small and inconsequential can also feel like it has that kind of magnitude in your own life, and that's okay too. And I think it just does such an interesting job of exploring like the in-betweens, and that's really fun to see. And I think that it does a good job of exploring that and exploring the relationship between these three main characters in a way that makes you believe that these are true friendships, that they actually do care about each other, and that you want to see where their journeys take them.
Right.
So given that we're sort of talking about a show that's 11 years old as a period piece, I want to talk about the period piece of it all and how this show does, in some manners, maybe unintentionally, date itself, right? We start off at a breakfast table conversation about a Instagram filter hiding a lazy eye,
right,
to the idea of being an 82% match with your date on OkCupid. It very much seems like they wanted to embrace this as real life rather than, hey, let's make this timeless as a piece. And do you like that? Did you get a chuckle?
I burst out laughing at Instagram filters ruined everything. And it's just like, I longed for the simplicity of that in a way.
Truly.
It's just like,
buddy, get ready to learn AI.
Where we're at a decade later is just insanity. But it also made it feel like a situation where it's like, you know, I moved to a big city in 2014. And so I wasn't dating, but it's like the conversations that I had with friends were about learning to navigate these new frontiers and how things evolved and changed. And it's just so interesting to see it put on screen and to have lived it, and to see it reflected as something that now has a generational gap to it. And
I just also felt a little bad for Jonathan Groff's character being on OkCupid, because my God, those are some long-winded profiles. And it almost like kind of like further established who he was going to meet up with later in the episode, because it is, I used it a little bit when I was in New York. If Tinder profiles are too short, OkCupid is not the answer to that. It is like full fucking books. And then people would put like in the 7th paragraph down, if this keyword isn't in your reply, I will not answer. Like they would hide it in there to just make sure that you read their entire profile.
You read the whole thing?
It sucked. It is so bad. I hate it.
That's a legal binding contract.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. You own 5% of their livelihood at that point.
Yeah, I'm still tied up in the courts from OkCupid.
So, you know, one of the things that we discussed at the top, right, and Rich, you sort of talked about the idea of slice of life being vignettes, right, being small scenes of each of the characters and each of the experiences. And I want to take a second, because we've talked a lot about the journey of Patrick, but we do get to see the journey of Dom and the journey of Augustin a little bit more. And I'd love to hear from the two of you, how were you able to buy in on those in only 30 minutes of this pilot? Like, was there something that stood out to either of you about those? And I'm happy to start as an example, but I'd love to give you. So I want to start off with Dom, because I think that Murray Bartlett did such a fantastic job with this character of going through what seemingly just starts as a day of going to work, stalking your ex on Facebook without following them, which was a very 2014-esque thing. But then to going on old behaviors, things that we were clued in that he did, flirting with people that he's working with, potentially trying to sleep with people that he's working with, as well, just all in ending in that day, calling the ex that he said he never was going to do. While it seems almost like a very inconsequential short story, it's one that I really loved. I thought it was just such a nice way of saying, like, yeah, Dom went back to live with his roommate. who was busy working in a critical care unit, and wondering if he should be doing something else or be living with someone else or loving someone else by the end of that pilot.
Maybe I'm mistaken in my interpretation of this, but I thought he was living with his ex from when maybe he wasn't out of the closet yet.
But it's still a roommate nonetheless.
Sure,
and,
no,
yeah,
totally.
But yes,
that is what was happening.
Yes,
now, right?
that was
Okay.
what was happening in this instance, and I really loved Lauren Weidman's. She only had a few moments on screen, but what an amazing character that seemed fully fleshed out with only like 5 lines of dialogue.
And to watch the two of them interact and knowing that both of them are going to have such like great roles on massive critical darling HBO shows in the near future. This entire cast with that, mind you, like knowing what Murray Bartlett's going to do with The White Lotus, Lauren Weidman is so good, specifically on this season of Hacks as the mayor of Las Vegas.
Oh my God.
She gets such
HBO darlings.
Such a great episode. She's also on that new show Sirens on
kills
Netflix.
it on Sirens as well.
Seeing, Jonathan Groff, he's going to go on to be on Mindhunter. He's going to hunt the mines. He's going to win a Tony Award. We haven't really talked about him yet, but the role of Frank, played by O.T. Fagbenle, he's going to be so good at Presumed Innocent at Apple TV alongside Jake Gyllenhaal. Mm-hmm. He's so good at The Handmaid's Tale. So many people on this show are going to blow up in the years to come. And that's to say nothing of one of the people that I teased who tested for this show, which was one Pedro Pascal, who ended up not getting it, but the casting director Carmen Cuba was the one who put him on the Narcos instead.
What?
The universe of Looking are stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to see them getting their footing in this is so amazing. And to see these interactions of people where it's like, the two of you are going to have such illustrious careers. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of just like geeked out as a TV appreciator watching this.
Yeah. And not only that, it's like a fun scene for them to be in. It is like, these are two people that have a long history. They've been through a lot together. They're going to give each other a bunch of shit, which is like, that is a free relationship where you can just like, where you can just roast each other like that. But also like, I don't know, it's just fun. The dialogue is fun. You get to crack jokes at each other. Like, I have to imagine they could have done 1,000 takes of that scene, and it would have been funny everyone.
What did we think of the plotline of Augustine? Right, this is a much more complex one in the idea of taking that step and moving in with a partner, but then that same damn day seeming to complicate that entirely by adding a bunch of mess. With what might seem like an inconsequential one-night stand, but also might be something a little bit more and revealing more about the relationship you're about to invest more into.
Yeah, and I hesitate to call it mess, but the idea of complicating the terms and defining of a relationship, that idea that Frank pitches of like, so what is this? So what are we? I think he says it's like, what type of couple are we, or are we that type of couple? And I think that's a very lofty question. And I think it's something that, we know is going to be explored in the episodes to come. It immediately puts almost like a goal that we have to get to for these two characters. It's like a writing goal now of like, we have to figure out how the two of them journey to finding this end game. How do they get to that point? And I think they explore it beautifully. They explore it simply. They don't overcomplicate it. They don't over discuss it. The show does so much with negative space that's really beautiful.
And silence. And they do a lot. Yeah, they do a lot of great with nonverbal
amazing.
communication.
Yeah, and even like the sound of the show, nonverbal communication, negative space. There's some small interludes in between scenes, but otherwise the music we hear is just kind of environmental noise. We hear songs at clubs, but it's not like I'm going to put a big thumping dance track over a scene to plug a song in there. Like, even the music is part of its environment.
At points they just mute the music too, which is just such a part. Like, there's that one when we see a bear head on a man who's just wearing a banana hammock. They mute the sound at one point to almost give Patrick this idea of just being alone, right? And feeling entirely alone. And it's such a beautiful way of sort of further emphasizing the concept of loneliness, even if you are surrounded by a bunch of people in celebration.
Mm-hmm. I personally very much related to the should we move in because rent is too much aspect. having lived in LA twice and New York, I fully understand that.
So I want to focus a little bit more on, as Patrick is the main character, at least of this episode, right? We get a couple of things that I think are really interesting, and I want to talk about the juxtaposition of a planned date versus a chance encounter that we have. At first, and I'm going to say this honestly, it has been many, many years, 13 years since I've dated. So maybe I'm a little bit unsure about the politics of this, even in 2014. But boy, oh boy, was that the most sterile, but like awkward, but I couldn't get enough of watching that date in what they called a hetero restaurant.
Man.
And that it was amazing. But like, I want to hear from you two. What did you think of this hetero restaurant date?
I was like, if I could have been like tearing out the padding in the couch that I was watching it on, I was like, oh man, he's really blowing this date. But also the guy is not giving him an inch. It is like the guy is like immediately questioning his dating history. Is like, how long is your longest relationship? He's in his Jonathan Groff's character is in his late 20s. He's like, oh, the longest relationship I've had is 6 months. It's like, how about you? 5 years. And I'm like, but also like, how do you get to 5 years? You have a relationship. It's like, but also it is going to be, for me, if anything, this indicated how shitty OkCupid is. I'm going to go back to it.
You can still sponsor us. Prove us wrong, OkCupid. You can sponsor this pod.
I feel like that's one of those companies that's like owned by Match.org or whatever, where they own like every single dating app. It's all one company.
God, the antagonist of today's pilot in Rich's eyes is
fucking
OkCupid.
Jesus Christ. There's nothing worse than open forums with no character limits.
Max, I mean, from your perspective, Rich did bring up some good points. Patrick isn't getting an inch in this date. It seems like he's doing all of the talking, trying to find some form of connection.
Yeah.
What did you think of the callousness of this soon-to-be doctor who's a resident who works on many different types of cancer?
I mean, I couldn't cringe into a tighter ball if I tried, but I think what I felt for Patrick is that longing of, I tried to do it this way of what I've been told to do, and it didn't work for me with the opening scene. And now I've tried to do it this way, which I think I'm supposed to do, which is online dating and using apps. It's very modern technology. And this isn't working for me. But this person's also chiding me for my longest relationship only being 6 months.
It was wild.
And this idea of you're trying to find true love. You're trying to find a real human connection. And everything you do feels like it's wrong. Like you feel like you're floundering in every attempt to do things the way that you are told you're supposed to do. And then just to kick him when he's down to say, well, you had one more glass of wine than I did, so you're going to pay this and I'm going to pay this.
The splitting the bill. Oh, boy. Knife in the chest.
And it just, again, it's that universality of like, to feel like you're just struggling to tread water, to stay afloat in a world that is ever changing. It's so complicated, and you feel like you had this vision for yourself of where you should be on the cusp of 30 and you're not there. And what does that say about you? Right. And Groff just plays all of that emotion so well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rich.
I do have a question for you guys that, it was escaping me. I'm going to come back to me.
Great podcasting.
And that was Rich's question of the week, everyone.
We already did that, so you don't get two. Let's talk about the juxtaposition, though, as I sort of aforementioned, in the idea of a chance encounter on a bus that after the terrible date, finding love where you least expect it in this instance. And this was with the character named Richie, played by Raul Castillo. And this was, I don't know if this happens with you too, but when I'm watching TV and there's a flirting scene that I like, that I think is well done, I get like butterflies in that moment. I feel like almost like, ooh, I'm being flirted with, and like,
right.
oh my God, like I'm getting a little hot and bothered in this moment, and like, like Patrick, jump this man, like with consent, but like jump this man with consent. Go to the best named bar in San Francisco, Esta Noche, and like, I literally have in my notes. I know it's been a while since we've done it. Daddy of the week. Like this is very much a moment where I was just like, I hope that this is what this show is like, of finding those brief glimmers of hope that you might have found that someone, even when you weren't looking for them.
Well, first off, shout out to Raul Castillo, who actually appeared in the short film version of Lorimer that Looking is based on. He got to see this project from short films conception into auditioning his way into this main cast of Looking. The idea, though, of this chance encounter, and again, Patrick seemingly almost blowing it in a way, like giving him the doctor's business card, lying that he's an oncologist, and, you know, kind of lying directly to this guy's face, because again, they set it up so well with Dom later on that leads to the resolution of Patrick only goes for guys that his mother thinks he should date. And it's this idea of he's setting up all these bars, all these parameters, all these boxes that he's missing real human connection in front of him. He's trying to do this thing in the park that's not for him. He's trying to do this thing on OkCupid that's not for him. He's not giving this guy on public transit the correct or like the proper time of day because he doesn't think it's the thing for him, when really he's restricting himself by not being the most, you know, honest and authentic version of himself. And seeing that character evolution from their meeting on public transit to how we end this pilot with Patrick showing up at Richie's bar is so lovely.
Yeah, it's a square peg character. It is like, I don't fit the common definitions of what a modern gay man is supposed to be. In the sense of maybe casual sex, maybe dating, maybe from the spectrum of like very casual sex to very serious dating is like, I'm not in any of these. I don't know if I should still be friends with my ex. Are people staying friends with their ex? Are they fucking their ex? Is this ex like a toxic person for them to be around, or can they be a friend? Yeah, I mean, I really do love this little arc of him taking a chance and actually following Ramon Castillo's character too. I should probably remember the names of all these characters, but it's been 160 episodes or however many, and I'm
Rich
doing my best.
Tired.
We filmed it. I don't know if people, a little peek behind the curtain. We filmed 24 of these in one day and then just spread them out for a couple months.
Well, gentlemen, that really is our pilot. And I'd love to shine a light on things that you love, things that you want to give a little bit more shine to. So I'll let either of you start, or I can jump in right away.
The smash cut to Patrick and Dom sitting at the bar after Patrick gave the fake business card, and Murray Bartlett's reaction to that.
Yes.
One, just the smash cuts and transitions in this show in general, but the way that they found such comedic value, because I was sitting there, I'm like, he gave him the doctor's business card, and they immediately clock it. They immediately call it. And I love the humor in the awkwardness of life that this show finds, and I think there's so many beats specifically that Dom, played by Murray Bartlett, gets that just let it shine.
That's a great point. So I have a line and a concept that I like. So my favorite lines from that scene that I think we might have talked about the most, Dom and his ex partner who lived together. Would my 6-year-old with my 6-month-old with a heart defect mind if I stayed home? Because she's a doctor. Asking her to watch The View. And he replies, she's just doing it for the attention. It is beautiful. What a perfect line. But in addition to that, I would like to commend the writer of the show, the creators of this show, with not digging into anything that would give credence to, is being gay okay?
Yeah.
To anything questioning that. There was no threats of violence. There was no like, oh, it's dangerous being a gay man in San Francisco or anything like that. It is normalized. It is human. There are no outside antagonists. It is just, we're in this world. It is normal life. And I'm for this being on HBO, where so many things go wrong and violent, and so many shows, violence is a extremely common theme with any HBO show. It is really nice that they did not play into that at all. There was no homophobia, there was no hate crimes or anything like that. This didn't feel like a very special episode of Looking, you know what I mean? And I really liked that they stayed true to that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that this was written in the sense of anyone can watch this pilot and see themselves in these characters and feel the problems that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, as we've said. And just two other notes really quickly. Andrew Law's in this pilot very briefly, and he's a gigantic, like, he just won an Emmy for Hacks. Like, holy
massive
shit.
comedy writer.
Yeah, like he was in the room for Hacks, Silicon Valley, The Good Place, like, and he plays Owen, and it's a delightful character that's only in the show for like 30 seconds, but perfect. But speaking of characters, I love that in 30 minutes, we got so much depth for each of these characters. We know a ton about them, but are left with wanting to know even more about them and know their journey and know what happens tomorrow. And they
don't beat you over the head with exposition.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is just well written. Like, that's all I can say, and that is the greatest compliment I can give a show like this. Let me be a little bit less thoughtful with my wait a minute moment. What the fuck is a slutty jalapeno? Gay Halloween has gone too far, and I'm going to say this because, one, I love that meme. I think it's the funniest fucking thing. But I heard that line. I paused my TV and was trying to do the math on how you make a jalapeno slutty. There's at least 30 different ways. So if anyone could please inform me, don't go in my DMs, you can just tweet at me. I would love to know what a slutty jalapeno looks like in the idealized form. You can also put it in the comments on our YouTube and our Spotify.
I think you would like make a little like beanie cap that has the stem of the jalapeno on it, and then like maybe you have like some green gloves or something like that, and then like I don't know, either green like hot pants or like,
and then you cover your balls in capsaicin.
Oh no.
Rich, any wait a minute moments for you?
So the only thing is, weirdly enough, a Jonathan Groff character choice. I think we hit a limit on how awkward this character can be. And then it just feels like, okay, well, are you ever going to turn it around? Like, it's like, I'm interested in him. Like, I like his character. But I think he reaches like this, I don't want to say Woody Allen level of awkwardness talking with people.
Anyone else?
I'm trying to think of another good example of that. But like, and if I would not have used Woody Allen if I could think of another one.
Lena
but
Dunham.
Like, he doesn't have like his like unself-assuredness is like so permeated throughout the entirety of this episode that like I really want him to find it. I'm really glad that they end with him and Ramon Castillo's character like together. But like up until that point, it was 28 minutes of him being very awkward. But yeah, I would say like tone it down like 10%. That would be my only choice. That would be my only choice.
Max, what about you?
Rich's thing from 2 minutes ago about capsaicin. The Jonathan Groff line of not even hipster Harry, like gym teacher Harry. What the hell does that mean? That's insulting to hipsters and gym teachers.
Yeah, and as a hairy American, I would like some clarification.
Oh my God. Well, we do.
I did figure out my question from a moment ago. I can't think of another example of this. This is not Woody Allen related anymore. I'm not going to say his name again. I can't think of a lot of other examples of sincere, intentional male dating on TV.
Oh.
Like, at all. The thought of dating in every show is from the female perspective of this fucking sucks, or their relationship is already established. you don't see, I mean, the closest thing that I can think of off the top of my head, but this isn't like legitimate either. It's Man Seeking Woman. And Man Seeking Woman is like a completely hyperbolic and like fantastical like vision of what it's like dating as a man in New York, I guess. But I can't think of a ton of other examples of like, you know, dating for the purposes of having a relationship shown from the male perspective, period.
Yeah, I'm going through the Rolodex in my mind of television because you both know I've watched a ton of it. And I think that one of the common things is it's a trope that's used in sitcoms a lot. Like think of a Ted Mosby, right? And him trying, we literally know the goal of that show is how he met the mother, right? But then I also think of another HBO show that's very different in Hung, right? And the dating life of that character is interluded with the idea of him being a gigolo at the same time. And that is a very fantastical, but not sincere.
That's Ted Mosby being the butt of the joke and like, you know, kind of being made fun of for like wanting to date intentionally with you know, Neil Patrick Harris being like a
sex sound.
Yeah. And then it just like, it feels like that level is not seen very often from the male perspective without making fun of it or it being the butt of the joke.
Yeah, because like Looking is a drama with a lot of comedic elements, but I would say at its heart it is a drama. It's a 30-minute drama, which, mind you, make more 30-minute dramas.
Yes.
Get in late, leave early. This was fantastic.
For the sake of our podcast, please.
But every example that I think of, it's like, oh, but it's told through a comedic lens. Oh, but it's told for comic value. And I was like, English teacher. This like last year we saw, dating and relationships with exes, and we saw, flirtations with coworkers and parameters put on that, and even all of that was set up for comic value. And I cannot, off the top of my head, think of a version that does it in the way that Looking does.
Yeah.
If you do have examples, though, please let us know, because we're always looking for things.
Yeah.
Hit us in the comments.
I was going to say two things. One, the only thing that really has come to mind is Suits Season 2. We get some examples of Harvey Specter dating, and there's one very touching episode about the concept of dating when there are interruptions in life, and it's a very sweet episode, in a show that sometimes is not that sweet. But I was going to say the two choices for comments you can give for this episode is either your version of a slutty jalapeno or shows that show a earnest example of dating for men.
Call us at our hotline to say what you would rub on your balls.
Well, we do have one more question, gentlemen, and this is an in-flight question from friend of the podcast, Connor from the Drama Pod. And Connor, if you want to listen to the Drama Pod, they literally just had Betty Who on.
That's cool.
And it holy shit, I listened to that, and they just did their 300th episode. So go and follow them if you like.
Congratulations, guys!
If you like Broadway stuff, if you like not Broadway stuff and just culture, holy shit, they are doing amazing stuff.
Boy, they threw their phones if they heard me talk about how popular Jonathan Groff was at the front of this episode.
We did have them on to talk about Smash previously, so go back and find that episode in the archives
Smash
as well.
Episode to this because Connor and Dylan are just the best. But Connor asked, why do you think this show didn't connect with mass audiences? And Max, I'm going to have you start because you have a little bit of more information about the marketing behind the show and maybe a little bit of why this show was set up to fail.
I mean, it basically got promoted by HBO in the same vein as hyper-stylized things like Sex and the City or their answer to Queer as Folk at Showtime. And it got pushed as this big, bright, shiny object. When first teasers and first looks came out, media like Jezebel just flat out was like, it's HBO's gay guy answer to Girls. And the show is none of those things. And because it wasn't this thing that was marketed, it got a rep early on in a lot of reviews as being boring and mundane. And it's hard to build a following when all of the word of mouth is, it's not this thing that I was told it's going to be.
Right.
And I think suffered from the weight of having to represent everything to everyone, which it was never trying to do.
Yeah.
You could see it in how the show operates, that it's not trying to be that.
But because of the part of the marketplace, because of what it was that other shows weren't, people wanted it to be everything, I think. And it has very little connective tissue with those other 3 shows that I've listed. And to give it that rep does it a disservice. It's an incredibly surface level comparison. And I do wonder that if the marketing team had found a better way to promote it and push it, and if, internet media and blog media that was starting to really boom at this time pumped the brakes and gave it a little bit more of an honest interpretation instead of it's gay guy girls,
right?
Could this have had legs and had success commercially beyond critically?
It would have had to have been a lot more fantastical if that's the route that they wanted it to go, because Girls is very sarcastic, it's very funny, it's a little like, aren't we all kind of gross in our 20s, like that kind of thing. This is a little bit more like, oh, we're elevated, this is us in our early 30s, this is us transitioning into like mature adulthood, and what happens when the party's like not necessarily over, but what happens when you're tired of the party. And I don't think Girls is really like that. Maybe in later seasons.
Well, Lena Dunham had her features before that produced by the Duplass brothers, and she comes from this like very mumblecore comedy festival scene, and so she's coming from an entirely different world than where Michael Landon and Andrew Haigh are coming from.
And this just hit right around the decision, or like right around when gay marriage was being legalized, or like the Supreme Court fight was
right
happening.
Around there.
So, and maybe people were just like expecting more rainbow flags at the Pride Parade kind of thing, but this is just real life.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. One, Max, I think you hit beautifully upon a theme that we talk about a lot, is sometimes studios do not know how to market the stuff that they agree to do. And that is the death knell in many instances for really great art. If you can't explain something in 30 seconds, no matter how good it is, it's going to be really hard to get someone to watch or listen or, download or stream. That's why sometimes I jokingly call us the Illiterate Book Club podcast, because it's just like, yep, you don't like reading? Boy, join the dum-dums who watch TV. But it is one of those things where I think, Rich, you also hit on it. There's a lot, at this point in time, there was a ton of pressure for, if you were going to do a queer-focused show, boy, oh boy, you better hit it out of the damn park. Because
it also has to be quote unquote important.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm so tired of important TV.
It has to be important, or it has to be funny, or it has to be fantastical, or like all these other things. And if it fails, then there's going to be an uneducated portion of the population who says, well, it was because it was queer. And I can then point right to, at the same damn time, True Blood was thriving at this point in time. And boy, oh boy, I hate to tell you,
that's queer
if
canon.
You don't think that is a queer show, boy, do I have a horse to sell you. And it is wearing a slutty jalapeno costume. But Connor, thank you so much for that question.
However, I am working on a new Sex and the City spinoff titled Oops, All Stanfords.
Let's talk a little bit more about the history and the legacy of the show. The show had 2 seasons and 18 episodes and a movie. Let's talk a little bit about ratings, because when the show started, the premiere episode got about 330,000 viewers, which is not great by
not
HBO
good for
standards.
HBO either.
But when they were showing reruns, they recalculated that at about 606,000, which is pretty.
What did John from Cincinnati get?
More. It also was right after Sopranos. Yeah,
that is true.
But then they got all the way up to 519,000 average viewership per episode, which is fine, but HBO just has higher standards. So when this show was canceled, though, this is one of the original shows that really benefited from the idea of fan protesting and fan petitions. Because they created a fan petition, and that is why the movie was made. And the movie actually premiered at the Frameline Festival, and then went on to be their most watched episode or special, if you would like, which is awesome. And there was a time where networks didn't just care about dollars and actually wanted to finish stories. Who would have thought? As far as nominations go, this show had 27 nominations and 6 wins. Unfortunately, no surfboarding for Jonathan Groff.
Well, it's hard up in the Bay. Those are some real rocky waters.
Yeah, the Bay can be cold. Like, you can technically surf by Alcatraz, but like, do you really want to? There's sharks. But
oh no.
Yeah. But
no, those are in San Jose.
But Rich, it is time for your game of the week.
Boys, let's talk a little bit about gay TV trivia. I want to see if you can figure out a couple examples of some gay representation in media that came far, far too late. You're going to be shocked by these dates. All right. The first TV show to include a gay character on primetime TV, not until 1971, so 35 years of TV without a single gay character, was A, The Brady Bunch, B, Different Strokes, C, Happy Days, D, All in the Family.
D, All in the Family.
I was going to say All in the Family, but I'll just say Happy Days just for the hell of it.
The character was a friend of Archie. However, it was Archie Bunker. It was All in the Family. 20 full years later, 20 full years, 1991. We see an entire decade of intense political villainization through the AIDS crisis. No realistic gay portrayal in the media, period. We actually finally get our first same-sex kiss between two characters on TV. It's a lesbian kiss between these two characters on this show. Or two female characters on this show. Is it A, Full House, B, LA Law, C, Party of Five, or D, Roseanne?
It's LA Law. It's 100% LA Law.
You knew it was LA Law?
Yeah. Because
have you watched this? Did you watch LA Law?
This is just, it's one of those things. It's a trivia question that like people will say for some reason it's Will and Grace was the first gay kiss on TV, and it's like,
right.
No, it's LA Law.
Okay.
So it's LA Law. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be way too late. Will and Grace is 98.
Me at 2 months or 3 months old was just pounding down LA Law, was just like, give me that LA Law. That's where the addiction started to TV. It was.
Well, thanks for learning some gay TV history with me.
Well, gentlemen, before our flight lands, I have 2 questions for you. And one is based off of the pilot and the pilot alone. Would you continue watching Looking, learning more about the journeys of these characters? It is all available on Max currently. I didn't say that earlier, but if you want to watch the show, you can watch it on Max. But the second question is, Looking is a story that was finished with a movie, right? It had that opportunity. But I want to take this from a period piece to, let's say we fast forward a little bit and brought it to 2024 and said, let's go. Do you think this is a show that could exist on the air right now with the amount of queer television that does exist and how much we have evolved in some shapes and forms as a society, even though there's always room for more? So, Rich, I'm going to start off with you.
Yeah, I personally 100% need to see more of what happens between Patrick and Richie. Also, apologies before I believe I called him Ramon Castillo for a second. It's Raul Castillo. So I'm definitely apologies on that one. However, I do think I want to watch more of this. Knowing that it only gets 2 seasons is disappointing. It does I would like to see it have more, or maybe see it. I'm worried that there's like a tail off quality wise or something. But in terms of whether or not it should be made today, I think yes. I think we're rapidly approaching a golden era of queer media. I think a lot of the people who are making a lot of important strides or have the most creative freedom or expressional freedom in like the comedy sphere are gay and queer creators. I consume a lot of gay media right now. I'd say at least half my podcasts have queer hosts. I think that maybe this was ahead of its time. It's like a combination of being like a little too early and a little too late at the same time. Like, I feel like this would have really done well in 2005. I think this really would have done well now with the introduction of like, you know, how people date with Prep in the mix and the explosion of Grindr and stuff like that. Grindr was out by the time this show came out, but it was not, maybe it wasn't quite as popular as something like OkCupid, or maybe audiences weren't ready for it. But yeah, I think the audiences are prepped for this kind of thing now.
Max, what about yourself?
Yeah, this is an easy yes for me to want to keep watching. I thought this was a beautifully acted, beautifully written, beautifully shot pilot. And I want, knowing that also one person helms the entire series, and I know what 2 seasons, 18 or so episodes are going to look like, makes me want to also keep watching because I love the stylistic choices made by Haigh. It's in the top 25 of like every best shows on HBO and history lists. Like, there's got to be a reason for it. I want to push past the commercial aspect of it and just take in this beautiful piece of media. And yeah, I think that there's this boom of coming of age into adulthood type of show from a lot of queer writers and performers right now. You have things like Overcompensating on Prime from Benito Skinner. You have English Teacher for Brian Jordan Alvarez. And they are doing it though through these very bombastic, comedic, sitcom type lenses. And I hope that the discussion and success of those programs will allow it to be told through the lens of something serious and grounded and like incredibly naturalistic, like Looking Again, because it shouldn't just be the story is only told through comedic value. I want to see it told through that like grounded realism as well.
Yeah. I'll finish this off. I think this is a beautiful pilot. It is very simple in its storytelling, but so well acted, shot. The use of sound. We've talked about this in a gushing manner, and I would be doing a disservice to it if I did not say go, if you have Max, and watch this pilot.
I'll watch it with you.
Yeah, exactly. Max is waiting.
If you have me, I'll sit down with you.
That's
his number is 203.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
But I think that one of the most important things about this is, I think that we have so much amazing media coming out from varying perspectives these days that if you were to say even 10 years ago, we'd have some of the stuff that we have right now doing extremely well. You'd be like, oh, there's no way, there's not a shot in hell that's happening. But boy, do I have news for you. Right. And it is that people are hungry for it. And usually that is a sign that people are ready for those stories. Maybe a little bit more ready than they were even just 10 years ago. So that makes them even more important. And I think the show would thrive on, it doesn't need to be a big budget thing. It can just be simple. And that's the beauty of simple stories. You don't need much money to tell them. And you can tell them and allow people to feel seen, especially on networks. That's one of the most important things that can be done. But yeah, I wish everyone not only a happy Pride this month, but make sure that you're celebrating the stories that celebrating those who are celebrating Pride, but also celebrating their stories each and every day pridefully. And with that said, gentlemen, that is our podcast. But before we go, I want to make sure that folks can find you wherever you'd like to be found. Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find me just doing this for the attention, and you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can find original sketch comedy for Max and myself at Dadwagon Comedy on TikTok.
Max?
You can find me wrapped in a big cozy blanket in the backyard with a wine glass full of whiskey, and on all things social media at Maxwell Sig.
And you can find me at Esta Noche, taking advantage of the 2-for-1 Blue Eyes special. But if you are looking for me on social media, If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilots license, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also watch our smiling faces on YouTube. If you have an in-flight question, you can. If you have an in-flight question, you can always shoot us a voicemail or shoot us a text at 213-290-1713. You can also check us out at tvpilotslicense.com. Make sure to check out our social media for previews of some of the stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign-off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial. And remember, always stay looking for love.
Murray Bartlett, Murray Bartlett, Murray Bartlett, Murray Bartlett.